So the coaches poll is out, not the AP top 25 coming into the season. But do these polls ever really differ that much from one another? In my experience, that answer is no. But Oregon got 0 first place votes. Aw, tear. Not really. I didn't expect them to. But Oregon comes in at number 7, Clemson 6, Notre Dame 5, Georgia 4, Penn State 3, an abomination, 5 or so. If you listen to my Locked On College Football show, you know why I made that remark. But Ohio State 2, and Texas 1. Now, I do think Clemson is the most underrated team on that particular list. I get why the coaches have the feelings that they do here, but Oregon at number 7 is right where I think they should be. It's not every day that national polls or national media folks or whoever's talking about it gets Oregon right. There's still a part of me that thinks about Oregon as being a Pacific Northwest regionalized brand that doesn't get the national respect that it deserves. Now, with Oregon, that's not as true as some of my other sports teams, quite frankly, because the Mariners are never on Sunday Night Baseball. The Seahawks are not always on prime time. Every now and then, maybe. The Blazers are not on national television a whole heck of a lot recently. So maybe it's just my own general fan bias coming out a little bit there. But a couple of thoughts on Oregon being in the number 7 spot. Number 1, I think it's appropriate. Given the teams that are in front of them, I understand why they are all there. Penn State has got, on paper, a better returning production metric and really just, more proven, I think is the better way to phrase it. They have a more proven roster than Oregon does. That game at Penn State's only a 4.5 point spread. Oregon could win. That would be cool. September 27th is going to be a great day. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be the whiteout. I truly cannot wait for that one. But Ohio State being up there ahead of Oregon, yeah, I can't really complain with that. Texas, I was a little surprised Texas was the preseason number 1, but only a little bit because I don't think anyone, or at least not many folks, except for maybe myself or Joel Klatt, are going to have the guts to go out there and put Penn State as the preseason number 1 team in the country. And look, this does set up a number 1 and 2 showdown week 1 in Columbus between Texas and Ohio State. I think Texas is going to win that game, by the way. So that'll be a fun start to the year. But Georgia, reigning SEC champs, okay. Notre Dame, Clemson, Oregon. Here's the interesting thing that I thought about. Oregon's ahead of Alabama, LSU, and Miami. I think Miami's way overvalued at number 10. And I'm not just saying that because this is an Oregon podcast, and I know you're all Oregon fans and want to hear me say that. I do think Miami, who should be a good team this year, maybe a little better than last. I think Miami's going to be about the same because they'll be better on defense, but they're not as good at quarterback. Cam Ward was spectacular. Carson Beck can be good, but he's not Cam Ward. So I think Miami should be more around the 15 sort of range. But the interesting thing about Oregon being 1 slot ahead of Alabama is twofold. Number 1, I'm still not used to seeing Oregon being ranked ahead of Alabama consistently, and that's something that they deserve. But they 100% do. Alabama had a massively disappointing season last year in Kalen DeBoer's first campaign in Tuscaloosa, and Dan Lanning has done nothing but go up for Oregon. And would I put him ahead of Clemson? No, I wouldn't. Notre Dame's close. I think Notre Dame got the absolute most out of their team in their playoff run to the national championship game last year. But that's also because their head coach, Marcus Freeman, like Dan Lanning, is very good and continues to get better and better. And then there's, Kirby and Penn State and Ohio State and Texas there. But that was the first thing, it's like, Oregon's ahead of Alabama. But of course, yeah, they should be ahead of Alabama. Oregon was a better team last year. Alabama's got real questions. But the other interesting thing about those two teams in particular being next to each other is they kind of have the same situation at the moment at quarterback. Alabama is likely going to roll with Ty Simpson, who has himself a unique career trajectory that's led to him being the likely starter for the Crimson Tide here in 2025. He's a redshirt junior, former 5-star recruit. He's been at Alabama the entire time. If not for the Dillingham departure, Dante Moore would have been at Oregon the entire time. I got a question about that just yesterday on the show. And so for Dante Moore and Ty Simpson to both be right there, if you just look at it from a quarterback standpoint, I think it's fascinating because they are so incredibly unique. And then the next team is LSU. And I wonder, the reason I bring this up on the show is I wonder if this trend is going to continue to percolate across the college football landscape, where quarterbacks that are super talented and highly rated coming out of high school actually don't expect to start right away. A bunch of them do. They'll hit the portal if they don't play, and they'll try to find another spot. And I understand why they do that. But you've got 3 programs right there that I think have got good head coaches. I think Oregon has, well, I don't know, his head-to-head history with DeBoer. I can't, in good faith say that Lanning's better than DeBoer. But I'd rather be Oregon than Alabama right now, because Alabama's going into a season where if DeBoer doesn't get to the playoff, there's going to be legitimate hot seat talk. And if Oregon doesn't make the playoff this year, they don't have those sorts of concerns. Certainly, though, that would be a letdown. But Garrett Nussmeier at LSU is kind of the same thing. He was a highly rated 4-star kid coming out of high school, and he sat there and waited his turn. And Nussmeier is one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football. And I'm really hoping that trajectory pays off for Dante Moore this year. And I think it will. I think he's got the tools. I think his best year would still be 2026. But, and Nussmeier at LSU is a great example of that. One of the reasons the Tigers have a lot of hype in some people's eyes is because they were a good, not great, but good team last year. But Nussmeier decided to come back. A guy who waited his turn, had a good season, team didn't get where they wanted to go exactly, and he comes back again. I hope that is what we see here with Oregon and Dante Moore. He waits his turn. I think Oregon will have a good season this year, win 10, 11 games, get to the playoff, try to make a run. If they don't win the national championship, Dante Moore says, I want to come back and go for it before going off to the NFL. So thought that was interesting, but curious as to all of your guys' thoughts. Do you think Oregon at 7 is too high, too low, or Goldilocks just right? I am in the Goldilocks camp myself. So before I finish with our trivia question of the day, I have to take accountability here. So there's a freaks list that gets put out. I believe it's by Bruce Feldman over at ESPN. The Athletic. He's at the Athletic and Fox, and he goes through measurables in the college football world and figures out who are the biggest physical freaks. Who are the guys that are just going to pop? Well, as chair, the self-appointed chair, let's not forget that, and this dates back many, many months here on this program, like since January or so. I am chair of the Amari Washington fan club, and I take that title very humbly and with a great amount of honor and respect for what it entails. Well, maybe Bruce Feldman listens to the show. Maybe he just knows that Washington could be really good. So listen to this. Quote, he's number 4 on the freaks list, by the way. Quote, the 6'3", 338-pound Washington is of the caliber of elite D lineman head coach Dan Lanning saw while in the SEC. His numbers made me do a triple take when the staff sent them over. To be that massive and clock 20.89 miles per hour and vertical jump 36 inches is mind-blowing. Washington squatted 755 pounds, bench pressed 475, and power cleaned 385. And then he goes on to note he'll have a bigger role without Jamari Caldwell and Derek Harmon in the fold. I tend to agree. Okay, Dante Moore recently made a bit of news in the Oregon podcast and content space, and I touched on it here on the show, when he said, I top out at 21 miles an hour. Like, whoa, that's pretty fat. Well, it seems as if Dante Moore was running at full speed, Amari Washington, if he took the right angle, could track him down, or could at least be within striking distance there. Just ponder that. That is awesome that Amari Washington landed on that particular list. That's probably my fault. It's probably the secret's out now. That's my bad. Coach Lanning, if you guys are trying to hide him from the world, my bad. That's on me. So, that one might fall on me. But man, I'm excited to watch that guy play football this year. It's gonna be really fun. So, let's wrap with Oregon trivia as usual. I was correct. This is one of my better polls to date. The first ever college football game televised on ESPN, Oregon, Colorado. 1979. September 1979. That's about, let's see, let me do it quick. 18 years before I was born. So I got that right. Here's one that came in. According to our lads, there's at least one Oregon Duck on 28 of 32 NFL teams. Can you guess the 4 teams with 0 Ducks on them? Ooh, 4 teams. I don't know what Duck my Seahawks have. So I'm going to put the Seahawks in there. The Saints, no. The Bucks, no. I don't know who's on the Panthers right now. I'm gonna put the Panthers in there. The Giants. I don't know. I feel like Terrence Mitchell's randomly floating around on one of these teams. I'm gonna say. Is there a Duck on the Raiders? Who's the Duck on the Raiders? I don't think the Raiders have one. I know the Colts do. The Jags. Who'd be on the Jags? This is a good one. This is a good one. You guys are buying into this segment. I can't get enough of it. Yeah. I'm kind of leaning the Jags. Yeah. Obviously not. No one was drafted by the Jags this past year. Nico Reed's on the Chargers. Yeah. Okay. Those would be. I think I listed 4, right? No, was that 3? That might have been 3. I want Seahawks. I want Panthers. I want Jags. I want Raiders. Those are my 4, and that is today's show. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.